Long before the arrival of European explorers, the vast landscapes of the Americas were alive with the brilliance of human ingenuity. Stretching from the icy reaches of North America to the towering peaks of the Andes, and from the dense jungles of Central America to the sun-kissed islands of the Caribbean, countless civilizations rose, flourished, and left behind stories etched in stone, clay, and earth. These societies, often shrouded in mystery, reveal a remarkable tapestry of human creativity, resilience, and cultural achievement. From the enigmatic city-states of the Maya, with their precise calendars and soaring pyramids, to the complex agricultural terraces of the Inca that clung to precipitous mountain slopes, each civilization carved its unique mark upon the land. They mastered the rhythms of nature, cultivated fertile fields, and created elaborate systems of trade and communication that connected distant regions. Their artistry, from the colossal heads of the Olmec to the intricate pottery of the Moche, tells of sophisticated minds capable of envisioning beauty and meaning in everyday life. Yet, beyond their material accomplishments, these civilizations were driven by deep spiritual and philosophical currents. Temples, ceremonial centers, and sacred landscapes reveal societies in constant dialogue with the cosmos, seeking understanding, harmony, and the favor of gods whose presence shaped every aspect of daily existence. Studying the civilizations of the Americas is more than an exploration of the past. It is a journey into the very essence of human ambition and ingenuity. In their triumphs and their mysteries, we glimpse the universal story of humanity. How people, across time and terrain, have sought to understand the world, to create, to connect, and to leave a legacy that echoes through the ages. Long before the grand empires of the Inca and the dazzling pyramids of Central America, a civilization quietly emerged along the rugged coast of what is now northern Peru. Known today as the Norte Chico civilization, or the Carol soup culture, it is one of the oldest urban societies in the Americas, flourishing between 3500 and 1800 BCE. Its cities were constructed not with monumental walls for defense, but with vision, ingenuity, and an intimate understanding of the land. Stretching across a narrow coastal strip, bordered by the Pacific Ocean to the west and the arid Andean foothills to the east, Norte Chico thrived in a harsh but resource-rich environment. Seasonal rivers descended from the mountains, irrigating the desert plains and providing the fertile soils necessary for early agriculture. Despite its remote location, Norte Chico developed remarkable urban centers, the largest of which, Carl, spanned nearly 66 acres and housed thousands of inhabitants. Its skyline was punctuated not by defensive towers or battlements, but by massive pyramidal platforms, sunken plazas, and ceremonial mounds, all meticulously arranged to reflect social and spiritual order. These structures, built from locally sourced stones and adobe, were the heart of a society that valued both communal cohesion and ritualistic life. Archaeologists have marveled at the scale and precision of these constructions, noting that they required extensive labor coordination, a deep understanding of engineering, and a sophisticated social hierarchy to mobilize and sustain such efforts. Agriculture formed the backbone of the Norte Chico economy. Unlike other early civilizations that relied heavily on cereal crops, the people here cultivated cotton, squash, beans, guava, and gourds, harnessing irrigation systems that transformed the arid coastal valleys into productive farmland. Cotton, in particular, held immense economic and cultural importance, serving as both a material for fishing nets and as a trade commodity. Fishing itself was a vital supplement to agriculture. The nearby Pacific Ocean teemed with anchovies, sardines, and other marine life, providing protein that supported dense populations and allowed urban centers to flourish in an otherwise challenging environment. The combination of irrigation-fed agriculture and abundant marine resources created a sustainable economy that enabled Norte Chico to grow without reliance on warfare or conquest. Religion and ritual played an equally significant role in shaping the identity of the Norte Chico people. Evidence from ceremonial platforms and sunken plazas suggests a society deeply attuned to cosmic and natural cycles. Large amphitheater-like plazas may have hosted communal rituals tied to agricultural seasons, reinforcing social cohesion and religious authority. Unlike later Andean civilizations, Norte Chico left no evidence of writing, yet symbols etched into stones and musical instruments, including flutes and percussion, hint at a rich ceremonial life where music and symbolism bridge the human and divine. Some scholars suggest that Norte Chico's religious structures and urban planning were designed to mirror astronomical alignments, highlighting the civilization's sophisticated understanding of the skies and their importance to agriculture and spirituality. Artistic expression, though subtle compared to later cultures, was woven into the fabric of daily and ceremonial life. Small figurines, carved stones, and intricate textiles reveal an aesthetic sensibility that complemented the monumental architecture. Cotton, besides its economic function, was likely adorned with decorative patterns, indicating that even practical items carried cultural significance. This blend of function, beauty, and ritual reflects a society that sought harmony between people, nature, and the spiritual world. Despite its achievements, Norte Chico gradually declined around 1800 BCE, for reasons that remain partially mysterious. Some researchers argue that environmental changes, including shifts in river flows and prolonged droughts, disrupted agricultural productivity, weakening urban centers. Others propose that social or religious transformations gradually led to the abandonment of cities, with populations dispersing into smaller, less centralized communities. Yet, even in decline, the legacy of Norte Chico endured. Its innovations in urban planning, irrigation, and social organization laid the foundation for subsequent Andean civilizations, including the Chavín, Moche, Wari, and ultimately the Inca. One of the most striking aspects of Norte Chico is its early demonstration that complex societies could emerge without the hallmarks of warfare or monumental conquest. Unlike many other early civilizations around the world, Norte Chico achieved social complexity through cooperation, religious cohesion, and a careful adaptation to its environment. This model of development emphasizes the diversity of paths that human societies can take toward urbanization and cultural sophistication. The influence of Norte Chico rippled through centuries of Andean history. Later civilizations, such as the Chavín and the Moche, inherited and expanded upon the urban and ceremonial blueprint established in Carroll. The emphasis on pyramid-like ceremonial platforms, sunken plazas, and astronomical alignment would echo in the architectural feats of the Andes for millennia. Economically, the integration of agriculture with marine resources inspired subsequent societies to develop complex irrigation networks and exploit the coast-to-mountain gradient of resources, a hallmark of Andean ingenuity. Spiritually, the early combination of ritual, music, and celestial observation set a precedent for the deeply religious and cosmologically aware societies that would dominate the Andean highlands. In essence, Norte Chico stands as a testament to human ingenuity at the dawn of civilization in the Americas. In the silence of its desert valleys, among the ruins of its pyramids and plazas, one can still feel the echoes of a people who understood the delicate balance between environment, society, and the divine. Their story reminds us that the Americas were home to remarkable civilizations long before the narratives of conquest and colonization, shaping a legacy that would influence the continent for thousands of years. Long before the towering mounds of the Mississippian culture or the intricate settlements of the ancestral Puebloans, the first widely recognized human presence in North America is often traced to the Clovis culture, emerging around 13,500 years ago. These early hunter-gatherers are named after the town of Clovis in New Mexico, where the first distinctive stone tools were discovered in the 1930s, unveiling a culture that would leave a profound and mysterious imprint on the continent. Spread across a vast geographic range from the southern United States to as far north as Canada and as far south as Mexico, the Clovis people adapted with remarkable ingenuity to diverse environments, from icy plains to river valleys and dense forests. The lifeblood of Clovis society was hunting, particularly the pursuit of megafauna. Woolly mammoths, mastodons, giant bison, and other enormous creatures roamed the North American landscape, and Clovis hunters perfected techniques to track and kill these massive animals with extraordinary efficiency. At the heart of their success lay the Clovis point, a fluted, finely crafted spearhead made from carefully selected stone. Its sharp, aerodynamic design allowed hunters to pierce thick hides, while its precise fluting enabled it to be attached securely to wooden shafts. Evidence suggests that these spear points were used not only for hunting, but also for butchering and processing game, showcasing the Clovis people's understanding of both technology and anatomy. Clovis bands were small, highly mobile, and tightly knit, moving across the landscape in seasonal patterns to follow game and gather wild plants, nuts, and berries. Archaeological findings indicate that they possessed a deep knowledge of the land, rivers, and migration patterns of animals, allowing them to survive and thrive in regions with harsh winters and unpredictable resources. Their mobility fostered social cohesion, as cooperation in hunting large game was essential for survival. Community gatherings likely centered around the sharing of food, stories, and cultural knowledge, binding these early Americans together in a network of interdependent relationships. While the material culture of Clovis is most visible through stone tools, archaeological evidence hints at spiritual and symbolic life as well. Some Clovis sites contain red ochre, a mineral often associated with ritualistic practices, and other symbolic objects, suggesting that even in these early times, humans engaged in ceremonial acts that connected them to the natural world. The hunting of megafauna may itself have carried ritual significance, blending survival with reverence, as these giant creatures were both food and a source of awe. Their seasonal cycles and unpredictable movements could have inspired stories and traditions, shaping the moral and spiritual framework of Clovis bands. The archaeological significance of the Clovis culture cannot be overstated. For decades, it represented the earliest known human presence in North America, leading to the so-called Clovis First hypothesis. Excavations at sites such as Blackwater Draw in New Mexico, Galt in Texas, and Buttermilk Creek revealed not only sophisticated tools, but also evidence of organized hunting strategies, hinting at social structures capable of coordinating large-scale hunts. These discoveries challenged earlier assumptions that early Americans were simple nomadic groups, showing instead that they possessed strategic planning, technological innovation, and cultural depth. Clovis culture also illuminates the complex relationship between humans and their environment. Their reliance on megafauna may have contributed to the eventual extinction of some species, a stark reminder of the impact early humans had on ecosystems. Yet, their ability to adapt to climatic shifts at the end of the Pleistocene reflects resilience and ingenuity. The transition from the Clovis period to subsequent archaic cultures shows a gradual shift from hunting large game to more diversified subsistence strategies, including fishing, small game hunting, and plant gathering, laying the groundwork for more settled societies across the continent. Despite their early prominence, the Clovis culture vanished around 10,800 BCE, leaving behind a legacy etched in stone. Their fluted points, scattered across thousands of sites, serve as silent testimony to their skill, vision, and adaptability. Modern archaeology continues to uncover new Clovis sites, revealing the intricate web of human activity that once spanned the North American continent. From the plains of Texas to the forests of the Great Lakes, their tools, campsites, and kill sites provide glimpses into the lifeways of people who faced a vast, untamed world with ingenuity, cooperation, and profound knowledge of their environment. In retrospect, the Clovis people were more than mere hunters. They were pioneers of adaptation, bridging the Ice Age landscapes with the beginnings of cultural complexity. Their achievements set a precedent for all subsequent North American societies, influencing the social, technological, and ecological strategies of the archaic and later cultures. As we study their tools, campsites, and symbolic artifacts, we are reminded that the story of human settlement in the Americas is not merely one of survival, but of intelligence, creativity, and the enduring quest to understand and shape the world around them. In the sweeping plains and river valleys once traversed by these early Americans, the echoes of Clovis ingenuity still resonate. Each carefully shaped stone point, each campsite, and each discovery of ochre or ornamentation whispers a story of a people deeply connected to the land, whose innovation and resilience laid the foundation for thousands of years of cultural evolution across the Americas. As the Pleistocene epoch gave way to the more temperate landscapes of the Holocene, the descendants of Clovis and other early hunter-gatherers adapted to a transforming world. Between 8000 and 1000 BCE, North America witnessed the flourishing of what archaeologists term the archaic cultures, a broad mosaic of regional societies that thrived across forests, plains, river valleys, and coastal areas. Unlike the highly mobile Clovis bands, archaic peoples developed a diversity of lifeways that reflected their intimate knowledge of local environments, signaling a pivotal transition from purely hunting-gathering strategies toward early agriculture and semi-permanent settlements. The geographic range of archaic cultures spanned the continent, from the lush woodlands of the eastern United States to the arid deserts of the Southwest, the temperate forests of the Pacific Northwest, and the riverine plains of the Mississippi and Ohio valleys. Each region presented distinct challenges and opportunities. Along the coasts, communities relied heavily on fish, shellfish, and marine mammals, while inland groups hunted deer, elk, and smaller game, supplemented by gathering nuts, seeds, and wild plants. Seasonal mobility remained common, but over time, many groups began establishing semi-permanent villages, particularly near fertile floodplains or areas rich in predictable resources. This growing stability fostered stronger social cohesion, the development of craft specialization, and the emergence of early ceremonial practices. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Archaic period is the gradual shift toward food production. Archaeological evidence from sites such as Watson Brake in Louisiana, considered one of the oldest mound complexes in North America, demonstrates that communities were cultivating squash, sunflower, and other native plants while continuing to hunt and gather. The introduction of domesticated plants did not replace hunting, but complemented it, allowing populations to grow and settlements to stabilize. In some regions, such as the Southwest, the precursors to maize cultivation began, laying the groundwork for the agricultural revolutions that would later fuel the development of complex societies like the ancestral Puebloans and Mississippians. Social organization during the Archaic period was diverse but increasingly complex. Villages often consisted of extended families or small kin-based communities, with evidence suggesting emerging hierarchies and communal leadership structures. Ceremonial centers, including large earthworks and mounds, indicate that rituals were central to community life. Sites such as Poverty Point in Louisiana, built around 1700 BCE, reveal elaborate earthworks arranged in concentric ridges, likely serving both practical and spiritual purposes. These constructions suggest a culture capable of mobilizing large groups for coordinated projects, a testament to social cohesion and shared belief systems. Rituals may have centered on the cycles of nature, hunting success, fertility, and seasonal changes. Blending practical survival with spiritual meaning, technological innovation flourished during the Archaic period, reflecting both necessity and creativity. Stone tools became more specialized, with the development of grinding stones for processing seeds, bone tools for fishing and crafting, and finely shaped projectile points for hunting smaller, faster animals. In coastal regions, fishing hooks, nets, and shell tools demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of marine resources. Basketry, textiles, and ornamentation also appear in the archaeological record, reflecting both artistic expression and practical utility. These technological advances allowed archaic communities to exploit diverse environments efficiently and to create material culture that supported both everyday life and ceremonial practices. The Archaic period also marks an important cultural and symbolic evolution. The construction of mounds, both for habitation and ceremonial purposes, shows that concepts of space, community, and cosmology were developing. These early earthworks often aligned with celestial events, hinting at an awareness of astronomy and its connection to agriculture and ritual. Personal adornments, such as shell necklaces, pendants, and carved figurines, suggest that identity, status, and spiritual expression were woven into daily life. Music and performance may have accompanied rituals, reinforcing communal bonds and transmitting cultural knowledge across generations. Despite their regional variation, archaic cultures shared a common adaptability. By diversifying food sources, mastering local ecologies, and developing innovative tools and social systems, these communities laid the foundation for later North American civilizations. The Mississippi River Valley, for instance, would become the heartland of the Mississippian culture, while the Southwest evolved into the complex societies of the ancestral Puebloans. The innovations of the Archaic period, agriculture, semi-permanent villages, ceremonial earthworks, and technological sophistication, provided the scaffolding for these later developments, demonstrating a continuum of human ingenuity stretching back thousands of years. The decline of the archaic cultures was not abrupt, but rather a transformation as populations integrated new agricultural practices and adapted to changing climates. Rising populations, shifts in river courses, and gradual environmental changes encouraged the formation of larger, more centralized settlements. By 1000 BCE, many archaic communities had evolved into societies that would eventually build monumental architecture, complex trade networks, and stratified political structures, signaling the next stage in North America's prehistoric narrative. In retrospect, the Archaic period represents a turning point in human adaptation and cultural complexity. It was a time when people learned to live in harmony with their environments, harnessing the bounty of rivers, forests, and plains while laying the groundwork for urbanization and state-level societies. The mounds, tools, and symbolic artifacts they left behind continue to speak across millennia, revealing societies that were far more sophisticated than once imagined. Their story reminds us that human innovation is not only measured in empires and monumental architecture, but in the quiet, persistent mastery of survival, adaptation, and community. Across North America, from the winding rivers of the east to the deserts of the southwest, the archaic culture's legacy endures. They were architects of early civilization, pioneers of agriculture, and the first to blend practical innovation with ritual and symbolism. In studying their earthworks, tools, and settlements, we glimpse a world in which humans were learning not only to survive but to shape their destiny, setting the stage for the rich tapestry of civilizations that would follow in the millennia to come. Along the humid, fertile plains of what is now southern Mexico, stretching across the modern states of Veracruz and Tabasco, a civilization arose that would lay the foundation for Mesoamerican culture for centuries to come. Known as the Olmecs, they flourished between 1500 and 400 BCE, earning the title of the mother culture of Mesoamerica. Though much about them remains shrouded in mystery, the Olmecs left behind an indelible mark through monumental architecture, extraordinary art, and pioneering cultural innovations that would ripple across the region long after their decline. The Olmec heartland was a landscape of river valleys, swamps, and tropical forests, a challenging but resource-rich environment. They built urban centers that were not mere villages but sophisticated ceremonial hubs, the largest and most prominent of which were San Lorenzo, La Venta, and Tres Zapotes. These centers were meticulously planned, with raised platforms, pyramidal mounds, and plazas designed for rituals, public gatherings, and elite residences. The urban planning suggests a society capable of organizing large-scale labor, indicating both political hierarchy and social cohesion. In these cities, monumental works of architecture rose from the fertile land, each stone and mound serving not only a practical purpose, but also a spiritual one, connecting the people to the forces they revered. Perhaps the most iconic testament to Olmec artistic achievement is the colossal stone heads, some standing over 3 meters tall and weighing tens of tons. Carved from basalt transported from distant quarries, each head displays individualized facial features, elaborate headgear, and expressions of authority suggesting portraits of rulers or revered ancestors. These sculptures demonstrate technical mastery and an aesthetic sensibility that emphasize both power and spirituality. In addition to the heads, Olmec art includes finely crafted jade figurines, intricate masks, and symbolic carvings that convey mythology, cosmology, and religious iconography. The attention to detail and symbolic complexity reveals a society deeply invested in communicating identity, authority, and spiritual belief through material culture. Economically, the Olmecs combined agriculture, trade, and resource exploitation in ways that supported their growing urban centers. They cultivated maize, beans, squash, and cacao, employing irrigation and raised fields to maximize the fertility of the swampy soils. Agriculture provided sustenance for dense populations, while surplus production enabled the development of specialized crafts and long-distance trade. The Olmecs established extensive trade networks that connected distant regions, exchanging jade, obsidian, salt, and marine shells. These connections allowed ideas, styles, and religious concepts to flow across Mesoamerica, setting a template for the economic and cultural interconnections that would define later civilizations such as the Maya and Aztec. Religion and mythology formed the core of Olmec life, permeating their art, architecture, and social organization. Central to their worldview was the jaguar, a powerful symbol of fertility, strength, and the supernatural. Many carvings depict jaguar-human hybrids, suggesting shamanistic beliefs in transformation and spiritual communion with animals. Ceremonial platforms, pyramidal mounds, and ritual spaces indicate that religious leaders held significant influence, directing both spiritual life and the mobilization of labor for monumental construction. Rituals likely included offerings, feasts, and possibly bloodletting, connecting communities to cycles of fertility, agricultural productivity, and cosmic order. The Olmecs may also have developed early forms of Mesoamerican writing and calendrical systems, precursors to the sophisticated scripts and calendars of civilizations that followed. The Olmecs' influence on subsequent Mesoamerican cultures cannot be overstated. Their innovations in urban planning, monumental sculpture, religious iconography, and agricultural techniques became templates for later societies. The Maya, Zapotec, and Aztec civilizations adopted and expanded upon Olmec motifs, architectural styles, and ritual practices, creating a cultural continuity that spans centuries. The Olmecs demonstrated that urbanization, social stratification, and complex religious ideology could flourish in the tropical lowlands of Central America, providing a blueprint for the growth of civilizations that would dominate the region long after the Olmec cities fell into decline. By around 400 BCE, many Olmec centers were abandoned, and the civilization faded into the annals of history. The reasons for their decline remain debated, with environmental changes, river course shifts, and social upheaval among the likely factors. Yet, their legacy endured in the symbols, architectural styles, and cultural practices carried forward by their successors. Every pyramid, carved head, and ceremonial plaza echoes the ingenuity and vision of a people who understood the power of art, ritual, and social organization to shape society. In reflecting on the Olmec civilization, one is struck by their ability to blend practical life with spiritual depth. They managed fertile lands, developed trade networks, and constructed monumental cities, all while maintaining a profound connection to the natural and supernatural worlds. Through their art and architecture, they communicated values, myths, and power in ways that transcended their own time, influencing generations across Mesoamerica. In essence, the Olmecs were architects of culture, creating a foundation upon which the continent's most celebrated civilizations would be built. And their story remains a compelling chapter in the saga of human achievement in the Americas. In the rugged highlands of what is now the Mexican state of Oaxaca, a civilization took root that would endure for over 2 millennia, bridging the ancient and the early modern worlds. Known as the Zapotecs civilization, they emerged around 700 BCE and continued to flourish until the Spanish conquest in 1521 CE. Positioned in the fertile valleys and steep mountains of southern Mexico, the Zapotecs developed a sophisticated society renowned for its urban planning, monumental architecture, writing systems, and enduring cultural legacy. Their story is one of adaptation, innovation, and continuity amidst the dynamic landscapes of Mesoamerica. The geographic distribution of the Zapotecs was centered around the Oaxaca Valley, a region defined by dramatic mountains, fertile river valleys, and temperate highlands. This location offered natural protection while providing rich agricultural lands capable of sustaining dense populations. Within this valley, the Zapotecs established several urban centers, the most prominent of which was Monte Alban, perched atop a flattened hill that dominated the surrounding landscape. Monte Alban was not merely a city. It was a ceremonial, political, and economic hub, carefully designed with plazas, pyramids, ball courts, and residential areas arranged to reflect both social hierarchy and spiritual order. Other significant centers, including Mitla and Dainsu, demonstrate the civilization's ability to adapt architectural styles to different environments while maintaining continuity in ritual and governance. Architecturally, the Zapotecs were innovators. Monte Alban's monumental plazas and pyramids were aligned to celestial phenomena, reflecting a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. Terraced slopes, carved stairways, and stone platforms facilitated large-scale gatherings and ritual activities, underscoring the intersection of politics, religion, and community life. The Zapotecs also developed one of Mesoamerica's earliest writing systems, known as Zapotec glyphs, which recorded genealogies, events, and religious practices. Though only partially deciphered, these symbols reveal a culture deeply invested in communication, record-keeping, and the legitimization of authority. Inscriptions on monuments and tombs suggest that writing was used primarily by the elite to reinforce dynastic rule and to record ceremonial activities, blending political power with spiritual significance. The economy and daily life of the Zapotec civilization were intricately tied to the land. They cultivated maize, beans, squash, and chili peppers on terraces and irrigated fields, maximizing the agricultural potential of the highlands. Trade networks extended across Mesoamerica, allowing the exchange of obsidian, jade, cacao, and exotic goods such as tropical feathers or shells. Artisans specialized in pottery, weaving, and metalwork, producing items that were both functional and ceremonial. Daily life balanced subsistence and ritual. Families tended fields, prepared food, and cared for domestic animals while participating in community events and religious ceremonies that reinforced social cohesion. Social stratification was evident, with elites controlling ceremonial spaces and resources, while priests and nobles mediated between the spiritual and the material worlds. Religion was central to Zapotec life, intertwining cosmology, politics, and social organization. The Zapotec pantheon included deities associated with agriculture, fertility, rain, and death. Ceremonial centers like Monte Alban featured ball courts, plazas, and tombs that reflected religious hierarchy and served as stages for public rituals. The dead were venerated, and tombs were elaborately constructed, often containing offerings and artistic depictions of deities, rulers, and ancestors. Rituals included offerings, feasting, and likely human sacrifice, reflecting a worldview in which the spiritual and temporal realms were intimately connected. Priests and nobles wielded authority not only through political power, but also by mediating these sacred practices, reinforcing both hierarchy and the social order. The political organization of the Zapotecs was complex and centralized, particularly in the high period of Monte Alban's dominance. The city-state system allowed for local autonomy while maintaining overarching control through ceremonial authority, dynastic rule, and strategic alliances. Leaders used monumental architecture, inscriptions, and ritual to legitimize their authority, ensuring loyalty and cohesion across the valleys. Military activity appears to have been limited compared to other Mesoamerican civilizations, with diplomacy, trade, and religious influence playing larger roles in maintaining stability. The integration of governance, religion, and urban planning highlights a civilization capable of balancing social, economic, and spiritual needs with remarkable efficiency. Zapotec influence extended beyond their core territories, leaving an enduring legacy across Mesoamerica. Their innovations in writing, urban planning, and religious architecture informed subsequent civilizations, including the Mixtec and later Aztec societies. The alignment of ceremonial centers with astronomical events, the construction of terraces for agriculture, and the integration of political and spiritual authority all became hallmarks of Mesoamerican civilization, demonstrating the Zapotecs' role as both innovators and cultural transmitters. By the time of the Spanish conquest in the early 16th century, the Zapotec civilization had weathered millennia of environmental change, social evolution, and regional competition. Their cities, particularly Monte Alban, stood as enduring symbols of architectural ingenuity, social complexity, and cultural resilience. Tombs, inscriptions, and artistic artifacts continue to speak of a civilization that harmonized the practical demands of life with profound spiritual and intellectual inquiry. In reflecting on the Zapotec civilization, one is struck by the balance they achieved between urban sophistication, agricultural mastery, and spiritual depth. Their monumental centers, intricate writing systems, and enduring religious practices illustrate a society that was both innovative and stable, capable of shaping the landscape, organizing communities, and influencing generations of Mesoamerican peoples. The Zapotecs remind us that human ingenuity is not confined to the grand empires of later centuries. It is found wherever people engage deeply with their environment, their society, and the cosmos, leaving a legacy that echoes across time. In the dense jungles, fertile lowlands, and highlands of modern-day Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador, one of the most sophisticated civilizations of the ancient Americas emerged, the Maya. Flourishing between 2000 BCE and 1607 CE, the Maya developed an intricate network of city-states, each with its own ruler, elite class, and monumental architecture, yet sharing common language, religion, and cultural practices. Their story spans thousands of years, revealing a civilization marked by intellectual brilliance, artistic mastery, and profound spiritual insight. The geography of the Maya played a pivotal role in shaping their civilization. The tropical lowlands provided fertile soil for agriculture, while the highlands offered defensible terrain and diverse resources. Rivers and seasonal water reservoirs enabled irrigation, supporting dense populations. Major city-states such as Tikal, Palenque, Copan, Calakmul, and Chichen Itza became thriving hubs of political, religious, and economic activity. These cities were often surrounded by smaller settlements, connected through trade networks that carried jade, obsidian, cacao, textiles, and other valuable goods. Despite occasional rivalries and warfare, the Maya shared cultural continuity across the region, evident in their art, architecture, and religious practices. The Maya were remarkable for their achievements in astronomy, mathematics, and calendrical systems. They meticulously observed celestial bodies, tracking the movements of the Sun, Moon, Venus, and other planets with astounding precision. Their astronomical knowledge allowed them to develop complex calendars, including the Tzolkin, a 260-day sacred calendar, and the Hab, a 365-day solar calendar, which interlocked to form the calendar round. They also recorded historical events, dynastic successions, and ritual dates, often on stelae and monuments. Maya mathematics incorporated the concept of zero, a revolutionary idea that enabled advanced calculations for astronomy, architecture, and trade, showcasing an intellectual sophistication rivaling that of contemporary civilizations worldwide. Architecture and art were central to Maya identity. Cities were adorned with towering pyramids, palaces, ball courts, and ceremonial platforms, often elaborately decorated with carvings, murals, and stucco sculptures. Pyramids, such as the Temple of the Great Jaguar at Tikal, served as both religious centers and symbols of political authority. Artistic achievements extended to pottery, jai, jade and obsidian carvings, and intricately woven textiles, all of which reflected both aesthetic skill and cultural symbolism. The Maya writing system, one of the most sophisticated in the pre-Columbian Americas, combined logograms and syllabic signs to record history, genealogy, and mythology. Through their codices and inscriptions, we gain insight into Maya thought, politics, and cosmology, revealing a civilization that valued both intellectual pursuit and cultural preservation. Religion permeated every aspect of Maya life, structuring their worldview, social hierarchy, and daily routines. The Maya pantheon included deities associated with rain, maize, the sun, the moon, and death, reflecting the intimate connection between environment, agriculture, and spirituality. Rituals often involved offerings, bloodletting, and elaborate ceremonies held in temples and plazas to ensure cosmic harmony and agricultural fertility. Kings were seen as intermediaries between gods and people, their authority reinforced through religious ceremonies, monumental inscriptions, and elaborate burial practices. Society was hierarchical, with rulers, nobles, priests, and scribes forming the elite, while farmers, artisans, and laborers sustained the economy and provided manpower for construction and ritual events. The Maya civilization left an enduring influence on later Mesoamerican societies. Their astronomical knowledge and calendrical systems informed the timekeeping and ritual practices of civilizations such as the Aztec. Architectural and artistic styles, including pyramid construction, stucco reliefs, and ball courts, were emulated across the region. Social, religious, and political structures established by the Maya provided models of governance, urban planning, and ceremonial organization for subsequent cultures. Even after the collapse of many major city-states during the Classic period, Maya communities persisted in the highlands, preserving language, customs, and traditions that continue to the present day. By the end of the 17th century, the Maya civilization had experienced dramatic transformations due to internal decline, environmental pressures, and Spanish colonization, culminating in the fall of the last independent city-state in 1607 CE. Yet their legacy endures not only in surviving ruins and inscriptions, but also in the living traditions of Maya descendant communities. Their achievements in science, art, architecture, and governance remind us of the intellectual and cultural heights attainable in the ancient Americas, long before the arrival of Europeans. In reflecting on the Maya, one sees a civilization that harmonized practical life with cosmic understanding. They built cities that were both functional and symbolic, created art that communicated religious and social ideals, and developed systems of knowledge that allowed them to navigate time and space with precision. Their story is one of innovation, resilience, and continuity, a testament to the enduring human quest for understanding, expression, and societal organization. Across the jungles and highlands of Central America, the echoes of Maya ingenuity continue to resonate, offering insight into one of the most extraordinary civilizations of the pre-Columbian Americas. High in the rugged Andes of modern-day Peru, a civilization arose that would profoundly shape the cultural and religious landscape of the Andean world. Known as the Chavín civilization, flourishing between 900 and 200 BCE, it is considered one of the earliest major cultural complexes in South America. Unlike other ancient societies that emphasized military conquest or expansive urban centers, Chavín distinguished itself through its spiritual and artistic influence, spreading ideas and iconography across a vast and diverse region. The Chavín heartland was concentrated in the Cajamarca and Ancash regions, with the most prominent urban and ceremonial center located at Chavín de Huántar, situated at the confluence of the Moche and Wachek rivers. This location, nestled between mountain valleys and high-altitude plains, provided access to diverse ecological zones from fertile river valleys to highland pastures, allowing the Chavín to exploit a wide array of resources. The center itself was a marvel of engineering and ritual planning, featuring sunken plazas, ceremonial platforms, labyrinthine galleries, and complex drainage systems. These structures reflected not only architectural ingenuity, but also a society deeply attuned to spiritual symbolism and communal religious life. Religion was the cornerstone of Chavín culture. Chavín de Huántar functioned primarily as a ritual and pilgrimage site, attracting people from across the Andes, far beyond the immediate urban center. Central to their belief system was a pantheon of deities often represented as hybrid creatures, blending human, feline, serpent, and bird characteristics. The staff god, a recurring motif in Chavín art, symbolizes authority, fertility, and divine power, exemplifying the civilization's emphasis on spiritual hierarchy and cosmological order. Rituals likely involved elaborate ceremonies, music, and hallucinogenic substances, intended to mediate between humans and supernatural forces. The Chavín's spiritual authority extended across the region, allowing ideas, artistic styles, and religious practices to permeate surrounding communities. Artistic achievement was one of the most striking legacies of the Chavín civilization. Elaborate stone carvings, stelae, and decorative motifs adorned ceremonial centers, depicting complex iconography filled with symbolic meaning. The Lanzón, a granite monolith at Chavín de Huántar, depicts the staff god in a commanding frontal pose, combining human and supernatural traits to convey spiritual authority. Other carvings feature jaguars, snakes, and eagles intertwined in abstract designs, reflecting both the natural environment and a rich symbolic vocabulary. Art extended beyond stone. Intricate ceramics, textiles, and metalwork reveal sophisticated craftsmanship and aesthetic sensibility, indicating that Chavín artisans were highly skilled and that artistic production was deeply integrated with religious and ceremonial practices. Architecture at Chavín de Huántar was both functional and symbolic. Sunken plazas and subterranean galleries were designed to create dramatic sensory experiences, using acoustics and spatial layout to enhance rituals and connect participants to the spiritual realm. Intricate drainage systems not only managed water from seasonal rains but also amplified the sound of running water during ceremonies, creating an immersive ritual environment. Pyramidal platforms, ceremonial plazas, and carefully arranged corridors conveyed hierarchy, guiding visitors through stages of spiritual engagement while reinforcing social and religious order. The Chavín economy was diverse and closely tied to the ecological richness of the Andes. Agriculture formed the backbone of subsistence, with cultivation of maize, potatoes, quinoa, and other crops adapted to high-altitude environments. The Chavín also engaged in animal husbandry, raising llamas and guinea pigs, and exploited marine resources through trade networks connecting the highlands to the Pacific coast. Llamas provided wool for textiles, transport for trade goods, and a valuable resource in the Andean economy. Long-distance trade allowed Chavín ideas, objects, and religious practices to spread, linking communities across mountains, valleys, and coastal plains. Obsidian, spondylus shells, and other exotic materials circulated widely, supporting both practical and ceremonial needs. Despite the absence of fortifications or evidence of widespread warfare, the Chavín civilization exerted significant influence across the Andes through religion, art, and symbolic authority. Their impact is visible in subsequent cultures, including the Moche, Wari, and Inca, who drew upon Chavín iconography, ritual practices, and ceremonial architecture. The Chavín model demonstrated that cultural cohesion and influence could be achieved not through conquest, but through spiritual leadership, artistic innovation, and the creation of shared sacred spaces that bound communities together. By around 200 BCE, Chavín de Huántar and other centers declined, likely due to environmental changes, resource depletion, or shifts in social and religious structures. Yet, their legacy persisted in the symbolism, religious concepts, and ceremonial architecture adopted by later Andean civilizations. The hybrid motifs, ritual designs, and monumental planning that originated in Chavín would echo through centuries, shaping the spiritual and artistic imagination of the Andes. In reflecting on the Chavín civilization, one is struck by their ability to connect people across vast and varied landscapes through art, religion, and ritual. They exemplify a model of influence that relies not on political dominance, but on the power of spiritual and cultural innovation. The labyrinthine galleries, towering monoliths, and intricate carvings of Chavín de Huántar are more than archaeological relics. They are evidence of a society that mastered the subtle art of uniting communities through shared belief, creativity, and symbolism. Their story reminds us that human achievement takes many forms, and that spiritual and cultural sophistication can resonate across centuries, leaving a legacy as enduring as stone itself. Rising from the high plains of the Valley of Mexico, Teotihuacan emerged as one of the most remarkable and enigmatic urban centers of ancient Mesoamerica. Flourishing between 100 BCE and 550 CE, this sprawling city would become the largest metropolis in the pre-Columbian Americas, home to tens of thousands of inhabitants and a hub of culture, commerce, and religious life. Its influence extended far beyond its immediate surroundings, shaping the development of civilizations across Mesoamerica for centuries to come. Teotihuacan was meticulously planned, demonstrating an unprecedented level of urban organization. The city's main thoroughfare, the Avenue of the Dead, stretches over 2 miles and is flanked by massive pyramids, plazas, and residential compounds. Large apartment complexes housed thousands of residents, reflecting an early form of communal living that fostered social cohesion while efficiently managing urban space. The city was divided into ceremonial, administrative, and residential zones with careful alignment along cardinal directions, indicating sophisticated knowledge of astronomy and urban design. This structured layout reflects both practical governance and symbolic cosmology, blending the earthly and the divine in every aspect of city planning. At the heart of Teotihuacan's architectural achievement stand the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon, monumental constructions that dominate the skyline and reflect both religious and political authority. These pyramids were designed as sacred spaces where ritual, astronomy, and civic life intersected. Elaborate murals, sculpted figures, and carved stone motifs adorn temples and platforms depicting gods, mythical creatures, and celestial symbols. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent, with its intricately carved facade, highlights the city's artistic sophistication and devotion to religious symbolism. Teotihuacan art emphasizes abstraction and cosmological meaning, conveying spiritual concepts through monumental architecture, murals, ceramics, and figurines. The economy and daily life of Teotihuacan's residents were complex and diverse. Agriculture supported the city's dense population, with maize, beans, squash, and chili peppers cultivated in nearby valleys and terraces. Specialized crafts flourished, producing obsidian tools, pottery, textiles, and jewelry, often distributed across long-distance trade networks that reached as far as the Maya lowlands and the Gulf Coast. Obsidian, sourced from nearby volcanic regions, was a particularly vital commodity, essential for tools, weapons, and ritual items. Markets and craft workshops indicate a vibrant urban economy, supported by social organization capable of coordinating labor, resource allocation, and trade. Daily life involved not only work and sustenance, but also participation in ceremonial activities, reinforcing community bonds and civic identity. Religion was central to Teotihuacan society, permeating architecture, art, and governance. The city's layout and monumental structures were aligned with celestial events, reflecting a cosmology in which earthly and divine orders were intertwined. Deities such as the storm god and the feathered serpent dominated religious thought, symbolizing creation, fertility, and the forces of nature. Rituals likely included offerings, bloodletting, and ceremonial feasting, conducted in temples, plazas, and pyramid platforms. Priests and elite administrators played crucial roles in mediating between humans and the divine, reinforcing both spiritual and political authority. The integration of ritual, art, and urban planning illustrates a society in which religion was inseparable from daily life and civic structure. Teotihuacan's cultural influence extended across Mesoamerica, shaping subsequent civilizations including the Maya, Zapotec, and Aztec. Its architectural styles, urban planning concepts, religious motifs, and artistic conventions were widely adopted and adapted. The city's extensive trade networks and the distribution of Teotihuacan-style artifacts suggest not only economic influence but also ideological and cultural impact, with distant societies emulating its ceremonial architecture, iconography, and social models. Teotihuacan became a beacon of civilization, demonstrating the power of urbanization, religion, and shared cultural identity to unite diverse peoples and regions. Despite its grandeur, Teotihuacan's decline around the mid-6th century CE remains a subject of debate. Environmental changes, internal social unrest, and political upheaval may have contributed to its eventual abandonment, yet its monumental structures continued to inspire later cultures. The city's legacy endured, preserved in myths, architectural emulation, and the continued influence of its artistic and religious innovations across Mesoamerica. In reflecting on Teotihuacan, one is struck by the civilization's ability to combine monumental urban planning, religious devotion, and economic sophistication. It was a city where humans reshaped the landscape, built towering structures to honor the divine, and created vibrant communities sustained by agriculture, trade, and craft specialization. The ruins of Teotihuacan, from the Pyramid of the Sun to the intricately carved feathered serpent temple, speak not only of technological skill but also of the enduring power of collective vision, cultural identity, and spiritual belief. Teotihuacan reminds us that civilization is not only measured by conquest or empire, but by the ability to organize, inspire, and innovate on a grand scale. Its streets, pyramids, and art continue to reveal a civilization that shaped the destiny of Mesoamerica, leaving a legacy that resonates across centuries. Through its achievements in architecture, urban planning, art, and religion, Teotihuacan exemplifies the heights of human creativity and social organization in the ancient Americas. Stretching across the arid southern coast of modern-day Peru, the Nazca civilization thrived in one of the most challenging environments in the ancient Americas. Flourishing between 100 BCE and 800 CE, the Nazca people transformed the harsh desert landscape into a vibrant center of culture, art, and innovation. Their achievements, particularly in large-scale geoglyphs and intricate ceramics, have captivated archaeologists and travelers alike, revealing a society that combined practical ingenuity with spiritual sophistication. The geographic setting of the Nazca civilization was defined by desert plains, river valleys, and foothills of the Andes. The region's extreme aridity and scarce rainfall presented serious challenges for agriculture and settlement. Yet the Nazca adapted ingeniously, developing complex irrigation systems known as puquillos, subterranean aqueducts that tapped underground water sources, channeling life-sustaining water to fields and settlements. By manipulating this scarce resource, the Nazca were able to cultivate maize, beans, squash, cotton, and the native root crop, manioc, sustaining dense populations and supporting specialized crafts. The interplay between the environment and human innovation highlights the Nazca's resilience and their ability to transform adversity into opportunity. Perhaps the most iconic achievement of the Nazca civilization is the Nazca lines, enormous geoglyphs etched into the desert floor depicting animals, plants, geometric shapes, and human figures. Some of these figures stretch over 200 meters in length, visible only from the air or nearby foothills. The purpose of these enigmatic designs remains a subject of debate. Some scholars suggest they were tied to astronomical and calendrical functions, while others interpret them as offerings to deities associated with water, fertility, and agriculture. Regardless of their exact meaning, the Nazca lines reflect a profound understanding of scale, geometry, and symbolic representation, demonstrating that the civilization combined aesthetic vision with spiritual intention on an unparalleled scale. Nazca artistic expression extended far beyond the desert geoglyphs. The civilization produced vibrantly decorated ceramics, textiles, and metalwork, featuring bold colors, stylized motifs, and intricate designs. Ceramics often depicted plants, animals, and mythological beings serving both functional and ritual purposes. Cotton textiles were dyed and woven into complex patterns, while gold and copper objects reflected both technical skill and symbolic significance. Art was deeply intertwined with religion, serving as a medium to communicate cosmology, social status, and ritual meaning. The high level of craftsmanship indicates a society in which artisans were respected and their work integrated into both daily life and ceremonial contexts. The economy and technology of the Nazca were closely linked to environmental mastery. Agricultural terraces and irrigation allowed for surplus production, which in turn supported trade networks connecting coastal and highland communities. Resources such as cotton, foodstuffs, and crafted goods were exchanged for exotic materials, including spondylus shells, obsidian, and precious metals. The Nazca also developed engineering solutions to the challenges of the desert environment, such as the puquillos, terraces, and carefully designed storage facilities. This combination of agricultural productivity, technological innovation, and trade enabled the civilization to flourish despite its harsh surroundings. Religion and cosmology were central to Nazca culture, shaping both artistic expression and social organization. The Nazca worshipped deities associated with water, fertility, agriculture, and the natural world, reflecting the critical importance of resources in their arid environment. Rituals included offerings, ceremonial feasts, and possibly human or animal sacrifices, conducted to ensure the favor of the gods and the continuity of agricultural productivity. The geoglyphs themselves may have been part of these spiritual practices, creating a visible link between the people and the divine across the desert landscape. Sacred sites, ceremonial centers, and burial grounds reveal a society that intertwined spirituality with everyday life, governance, and artistic expression. The legacy of the Nazca civilization extends far beyond the desert plains of southern Peru. Their innovations in irrigation, agriculture, and environmental adaptation influenced subsequent Andean cultures, including the Wari, Moche, and Inca, who inherited knowledge of water management and ceremonial architecture. The Nazca lines, as enduring monuments, continue to capture the imagination of scholars and visitors alike, offering a glimpse into the symbolic and spiritual life of a society that harmonized human activity with the forces of nature. Their art, technology, and cosmologies reflect a civilization deeply aware of its environment, capable of transforming scarcity into opportunity, and of expressing complex ideas through monumental and portable forms alike. In reflecting on the Nazca civilization, one is struck by their blend of practicality and imagination. They mastered the challenges of a harsh desert environment through ingenious engineering, cultivated artistic sophistication through ceramics and textiles, and expressed profound spiritual and cultural ideas through the geoglyphs that still inspire awe today. The Nazca story reminds us that human creativity and resilience often flourish in the most unexpected places, leaving legacies that transcend time and continue to enrich our understanding of ancient civilizations in the Americas. Along the arid northern coast of modern-day Peru, between the fertile valleys of the Moche and Chicama rivers, a civilization arose that would become one of the most remarkable pre-Columbian cultures of South America. The Moche civilization, flourishing between 100 and 700 CE, distinguished itself through its sophisticated architecture, intricate artistry, and complex religious and political systems. Despite their coastal desert environment, the Moche thrived, leaving a legacy of monumental constructions, elaborate ceramics, and metallurgical mastery that continues to fascinate historians and archaeologists alike. The geographic location of the Moche was both a challenge and an advantage. The northern Peruvian coast is characterized by arid plains, limited rainfall, and river valleys fed by Andean meltwater. The Moche ingeniously harnessed these rivers, constructing extensive irrigation systems that transformed dry plains into productive farmland. Terraced fields and canals allowed them to cultivate maize, beans, squash, peanuts, and cotton, supporting a dense population and enabling the development of specialized crafts and ceremonial complexes. Politically, the Moche were organized into regional states governed by powerful elites, with leadership likely inherited through dynastic lines. Each major valley operated semi-autonomously, but shared cultural and religious traditions that unified the broader Moche world. Architecture played a central role in Moche society, reflecting both political authority and religious devotion. The Moche constructed massive adobe pyramids, the most famous being the Huaca del Sol and Huaca de la Luna, which tower over the coastal plains. These monumental structures served multiple purposes: administrative centers, ceremonial platforms, and repositories of elite power. Pyramids were intricately decorated with murals and reliefs depicting deities, warriors, and ritual scenes, conveying both spiritual significance and social hierarchy. Residential compounds and workshops surrounded these ceremonial centers, forming complex urban landscapes that accommodated artisans, farmers, and administrators, and revealing the Moche's capacity for large-scale planning and organization. The Moche were extraordinary artisans, particularly in ceramics and metallurgy. Their ceramics are renowned for realism and narrative depth, depicting scenes of daily life, mythology, warfare, and ritual. Portrait vessels, intricately molded and painted, immortalize rulers, priests, and ordinary people with remarkable precision, offering insight into Moche society, clothing, and social roles. Metallurgy was equally impressive. The Moche worked gold, silver, and copper into ceremonial objects, jewelry, and ritual implements. These artifacts not only display technical mastery, but also reveal a deep understanding of symbolic communication, linking material culture with spiritual and political authority. Economically, the Moche civilization depended on agriculture, trade, and resource management. Irrigation systems ensured reliable crop yields, while proximity to rivers and the Pacific coast provided access to fish, shellfish, and marine resources. Trade networks extended into the highlands and across the coast, exchanging goods such as spondylus shells, exotic feathers, and fine textiles. This combination of agricultural productivity and trade supported urban growth, social stratification, and ceremonial complexity, illustrating a society that balanced resource management with cultural and spiritual priorities. Religion permeated all aspects of Moche life, influencing art, architecture, and governance. Their pantheon included deities associated with fertility, agriculture, water, and war, reflecting the challenges and needs of coastal life. Ceremonial practices often involved elaborate rituals, including offerings of food, textiles, and sometimes human sacrifice, aimed at ensuring agricultural abundance and political legitimacy. The murals of Huaca de la Luna depict ritual scenes with striking clarity, illustrating both the cosmological beliefs and the social roles of participants in these ceremonies. Priests and elite rulers were central to this religious hierarchy, mediating between gods and people, and using ritual to reinforce social and political cohesion. The Moche civilization's influence extended beyond their own coastal valleys. Their artistic conventions, architectural innovations, and ritual practices informed subsequent Andean cultures, including the Wari and Chimú civilizations. The emphasis on monumental ceremonial architecture, narrative ceramics, and religious iconography became enduring features of Andean society, demonstrating the Moche's role as both innovators and cultural transmitters. By around 700 CE, the Moche civilization experienced decline, likely due to environmental stresses such as prolonged droughts, river flooding, and internal social disruptions. Despite this, their monumental constructions, finely crafted ceramics, and metallurgical achievements endured, preserving the story of a civilization that harmonized art, religion, and governance in ways that continue to captivate modern observers. In reflecting on the Moche, one is struck by their ability to integrate practical life with spiritual and artistic expression. They transformed a harsh coastal desert into a thriving center of agriculture, built monumental cities that conveyed both power and devotion, and created art that tells the story of their daily lives, beliefs, and aspirations. The Moche remind us that human ingenuity and creativity often flourish in challenging environments, leaving legacies that speak across centuries. Their pyramids, ceramics, and metalwork are not merely artifacts, but enduring expressions of a society that mastered the interplay of environment, technology, and culture, establishing a foundation for the Andean civilizations that followed. Spanning the vast floodplains, river valleys, and forests of what is now the southeastern and midwestern United States, the Mississippian culture emerged around 800 CE and flourished until European contact in the 16th and early 17th centuries. Known for its monumental earthworks, complex social structures, and far-reaching trade networks, the Mississippian civilization represents the apex of pre-Columbian societies in North America. From the towering mounds of Cahokia to smaller ceremonial centers scattered across the Mississippi River basin, their achievements reflect a sophisticated integration of environment, economy, and culture. The geographic regions inhabited by the Mississippians included the river valleys of the Mississippi, Ohio, and Missouri rivers, as well as adjacent plains and forests. These fertile landscapes supported intensive agriculture, while waterways facilitated trade, communication, and transportation. The heart of Mississippian civilization was Cahokia, located near present-day St. Louis, Missouri. At its peak, Cahokia may have housed 20,000 to 30,000 people, making it the largest urban center in North America before European colonization. The city featured hundreds of mounds, plazas, and ceremonial spaces, demonstrating a high degree of urban planning and social organization. Surrounding Cahokia were numerous smaller towns and villages, linked through networks of roads, rivers, and trade routes, creating a culturally cohesive but politically diverse civilization. Mississippian society is best known for its mound building, a distinctive cultural hallmark. These earthworks served multiple purposes: ceremonial, religious, and elite residential. The largest, Monk's Mound at Cahokia, covers more than 14 acres and rises nearly 30 meters above the surrounding plain. Other mounds functioned as platforms for temples, elite residences, or burial sites. Their construction required extensive labor organization, reflecting centralized planning and hierarchical social structures. The mound's placement within plazas and ceremonial precincts suggests careful attention to astronomical alignments and cosmological symbolism, linking the physical landscape to spiritual beliefs. The economy of the Mississippian culture relied heavily on agriculture, particularly the cultivation of maize, beans, squash, and sunflowers, which provided a stable food supply and supported population growth. Supplementary activities included hunting, fishing, and gathering of wild plants. Trade networks extended throughout North America, enabling the exchange of materials such as copper from the Great Lakes, marine shells from the Gulf Coast, and mica from the Appalachians. This exchange not only supplied raw materials for tools, ornaments, and ceremonial items, but also facilitated cultural diffusion, spreading religious motifs, artistic styles, and technological knowledge across the continent. Social and political organization in Mississippian society was hierarchical. Chiefdoms were led by powerful elites who controlled trade, ceremonial activities, and labor for construction projects. Elite authority was often reinforced through ritual and symbolic displays, including the construction of mounds, performance of ceremonies, and control over religious knowledge. The majority of the population, farmers, artisans, and laborers, supported this elite system through agricultural production, craft specialization, and participation in communal religious life. Social stratification was further emphasized through burial practices, as elite tombs often contained exotic grave goods indicating status, spiritual importance, and connections to broader trade networks. Religion and ritual practices were central to Mississippian life, intertwining governance, daily activities, and ceremonial expression. The Mississippians worshipped a pantheon of deities associated with fertility, agriculture, the sun, and the underworld, reflecting their dependence on seasonal cycles and natural resources. Rituals included offerings, feasts, and occasionally human sacrifice, often performed atop platform mounds or in ceremonial plazas. The birdman and serpent motifs, frequently depicted in Mississippian art, symbolize cosmological concepts of life, death, and spiritual power. Religious practices reinforced social hierarchy, legitimized elite authority, and created a shared identity that bound communities together across vast distances. The Mississippian culture's influence extended beyond its immediate region. Architectural styles, ceremonial practices, and iconography spread to smaller settlements and neighboring cultures, creating a shared cultural tradition across the southeastern and midwestern United States. Even after the decline of major centers like Cahokia around 1350 CE, due in part to environmental pressures, social unrest, and resource depletion, the cultural and religious legacies of the Mississippians persisted. Communities continued to build mounds, practice maize agriculture, and maintain trade and ceremonial networks, preserving the essence of Mississippian life for centuries. By the time European explorers arrived in North America in the 16th century, the Mississippian world had already undergone transformation, yet its monumental earthworks, artistic traditions, and social innovations remained visible markers of a once thriving civilization. Cahokia, Monk's Mound, and other ceremonial sites stand as enduring testimony to the ingenuity, organization, and spiritual life of the Mississippian peoples. Their ability to harmonize environment, society, and religion demonstrates that North America, too, was home to complex, urbanized civilizations long before European contact. In reflecting on the Mississippian culture, one appreciates the interplay of nature, society, and spirituality. Through agriculture, trade, monumental architecture, and ritual, they created a world in which humans shaped their environment while remaining deeply connected to the cosmos. Their story is one of organization, creativity, and resilience, offering insight into the sophistication of North American societies prior to colonization. The mounds, artifacts, and cultural traditions they left behind continue to reveal a civilization that, though largely vanished, profoundly shaped the historical and cultural landscape of the continent. In the rugged Andean highlands of present-day Peru, a civilization arose that would lay the groundwork for the later empires of the Andes. Known as the Wari civilization, flourishing between 600 and 1100 CE, it represented a remarkable achievement in urban planning, engineering, and administrative organization. The Wari were innovators in political governance and infrastructure, connecting diverse ecological zones and populations through a network of cities, roads, and cultural influence. Their civilization demonstrates the sophistication of Andean societies before the rise of the Inca. The geographic extent of the Wari civilization spanned much of the central Andean highlands, encompassing the modern regions of Ayacucho, Ancash, Lima, and Arequipa. Unlike coastal cultures such as the Moche and Nazca, the Wari thrived in the highlands, adapting to steep terrain, thin air, and varying climates. Their urban centers, most notably the capital at Wari near Ayacucho, functioned as both administrative and ceremonial hubs, serving as focal points for political control and cultural cohesion. Smaller provincial centers were strategically placed throughout the highlands, allowing the Wari to manage resources, trade, and local populations efficiently while maintaining a shared cultural identity. Architecture and engineering were hallmarks of Wari civilization. Cities featured terraced constructions, monumental stone walls, and rectangular compounds that housed elite officials, soldiers, and craft specialists. Unlike the pyramidal constructions of the Moche, Wari architecture emphasized modular urban design, creating organized neighborhoods, storage facilities, and administrative complexes. Roads and bridges connected the highlands with valleys and coastal areas, forming an extensive transport network that facilitated trade, communication, and military coordination. Terracing and hydraulic engineering allowed agriculture to flourish in mountainous terrain, stabilizing soils and maximizing arable land. These innovations reflect both practical ingenuity and centralized planning, underscoring the Wari ability to harmonize environmental challenges with urban development. The economy of the Wari was grounded in agriculture but extended into craft production, trade, and resource management. They cultivated maize, potatoes, quinoa, and legumes, adapting crops to microclimates through terracing and irrigation. Llamas provided transport, wool, and meat, forming a vital part of highland economies. Trade networks connected distant regions, allowing the exchange of metals, textiles, and exotic goods such as spondylus shells. Administrative oversight ensured efficient distribution of resources, with storehouses and logistical hubs demonstrating the Wari's capacity for centralized governance. This combination of agriculture, trade, and administration allowed the Wari to support large urban populations and complex social structures in challenging highland environments. Religion and cultural significance were integral to Wari society. The Wari shared a pantheon of deities and cosmological concepts with earlier Andean cultures, emphasizing fertility, agriculture, and the forces of nature. Ceremonial centers, plazas, and ritual artifacts reveal the integration of religious practice into urban life, linking elite authority with spiritual legitimacy. Artistic production, including textiles, ceramics, and carved stone, reflects both religious symbolism and social hierarchy. Wari textiles, in particular, were notable for their intricate geometric patterns and vivid colors, often used as ceremonial garments and markers of status. Art and ritual served to unify populations across diverse ecological zones, creating a cohesive identity that transcended local differences. The Wari civilization also influenced subsequent Andean societies, most notably the Inca. Many elements of Wari governance, urban planning, road construction, and administrative organization were later adopted and expanded by the Inca Empire, demonstrating the enduring legacy of Wari innovations. Their approach to linking highland and coastal regions, standardizing infrastructure, and integrating religious authority into political governance laid the foundation for the complex, continent-spanning empires that followed. Even after the decline of Wari around 1100 CE, the knowledge and cultural practices of the Wari continue to resonate in Andean societies, preserving their contributions to urban design, agriculture, and social organization. By the end of the 11th century, environmental pressures, social unrest, and possibly internal political challenges led to the decline of the Wari state. Yet their legacy endures in the landscape of the Andes, from terraced fields and fortified cities to administrative hubs and ceremonial centers. The Wari story is one of adaptation, innovation, and influence. A civilization that not only mastered the highlands, but also shaped the trajectory of Andean history for centuries to come. Reflecting on the Wari, one sees a society that harmonized environment, governance, and spirituality. They transformed rugged mountains into productive agricultural landscapes, built cities that balanced utility and ceremonial significance, and created cultural practices that unified diverse populations. The Wari remind us that human ingenuity often thrives under environmental and social challenges, leaving a legacy of organization, artistry, and infrastructure that continues to inspire admiration and study today. Through their urban planning, road networks, and ceremonial architecture, the Wari civilization demonstrates the heights of Andean creativity and governance, bridging the gap between early regional cultures and the great empires that would follow. In the heart of the Mexican highlands, following the decline of Teotihuacan, a powerful and enigmatic civilization arose that would profoundly shape the cultural landscape of Mesoamerica. The Toltecs. Flourishing between 900 and 1150 CE, the Toltec civilization is renowned for its military prowess, monumental architecture, and rich mythological traditions, which later deeply influenced the Aztec Empire. Their legacy combines urban sophistication, religious innovation, and cultural symbolism, leaving a mark that resonates throughout the history of Central America. The geographic regions occupied by the Toltecs spanned the central highlands of modern-day Mexico, particularly the area surrounding present-day Tula, Tulin, which served as the principal urban and ceremonial center. Smaller city-states dotted the region, linked through trade, political alliances, and cultural exchange. Tula was strategically positioned on fertile plains near rivers, providing access to agricultural resources while facilitating commerce with neighboring regions. The surrounding valleys and highlands offered a natural defense, allowing the Toltecs to consolidate power and expand influence across central Mesoamerica. The city itself reflected careful urban planning, with streets, plazas, and ceremonial precincts arranged to reflect cosmological principles and hierarchical social organization. Art and architecture were central to Toltec identity. Monumental constructions, such as the famous Atlantean statues at Tula, towering stone figures representing warrior priests, symbolize both religious devotion and military authority. The Toltecs were also skilled builders of pyramids, temples, and palaces, often adorned with intricate reliefs depicting gods, warriors, and symbolic motifs. Their artistry extended to ceramics, murals, and carved stone, reflecting abstract and figurative forms that communicated religious and social ideas. The blending of artistry with urban architecture illustrates the Toltec emphasis on integrating spiritual and civic life, creating environments where power, religion, and aesthetics intersected. Military culture played a significant role in Toltec society, influencing social structure, political authority, and religious practice. The Toltecs were renowned as warriors, often depicted in ceremonial art wearing elaborate armor and carrying obsidian-bladed weapons. Military prowess reinforced the authority of elites and allowed Tula to assert influence over surrounding city-states. The warrior ethos was closely intertwined with religion, with battles and conquests framed as both practical and spiritual endeavors. This martial tradition inspired later civilizations, most notably the Aztecs, who revered the Toltecs as cultural and military ancestors. Religion and mythology were central to Toltec identity, shaping art, governance, and daily life. They worshipped a pantheon of gods, with Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, as a principal deity symbolizing creation, wisdom, and cosmic order. Rituals involved offerings, ceremonial dances, and pilgrimages to sacred precincts, reinforcing social hierarchy and community cohesion. Myths of Toltec origins and divine guidance permeated their cultural memory, providing a framework for political authority and civic duty. The Toltec emphasis on ritualized warfare and ceremonial observance influenced subsequent Mesoamerican societies, embedding moral and cosmological principles into governance and social behavior. The economy of the Toltecs combined agriculture, trade, and craft specialization. Fertile highland valleys allowed for the cultivation of maize, beans, chili peppers, and other staple crops. Llamas were not present, but obsidian, cotton, cacao, and precious metals circulated through well-established trade networks, connecting Tula to distant regions. Artisans produced finely crafted pottery, textiles, and ceremonial items, supporting both local consumption and religious functions. Economic organization was tightly integrated with social hierarchy, as tribute, trade, and craft production reinforced elite authority while sustaining the broader population. Social organization in Toltec society was hierarchical, with a ruling elite that controlled ceremonial centers, military endeavors, and religious life. Art, architecture, and ritual were key instruments for maintaining social cohesion and authority, ensuring that the population remained aligned with the spiritual and political vision of the elite. Despite the centralization of power, evidence suggests that the Toltecs maintained networks of subordinate city-states and allied communities, allowing them to exert regional influence without direct control over distant populations. By around 1150 CE, the Toltec civilization experienced decline, likely due to internal conflicts, environmental pressures, and invasions by nomadic groups. Yet, their cultural and religious influence endured, particularly on the Aztec Empire, which revered Tula as a legendary city and Quetzalcoatl as a guiding deity. The Aztecs adopted Toltec artistic styles, ceremonial practices, and martial ideals, positioning the Toltecs as both historical and mythic ancestors whose legacy legitimized later political and religious authority. In reflecting on the Toltec civilization, one recognizes a society that blended military strength, artistic innovation, and religious devotion. They created monumental cities, powerful myths, and sophisticated social structures, demonstrating that cultural achievement in Mesoamerica was not solely dependent on size or population, but also on the ability to integrate spirituality, governance, and artistry. The Toltec legacy, enshrined in stone monuments, codices, and the collective memory of the Aztecs, stands as a testament to their enduring impact on Central American civilization. The story of the Toltecs reminds us that civilizations are remembered not only for their material achievements, but also for their influence on the ideas, beliefs, and aspirations of subsequent generations. Through tooless pyramids, warrior statues, and sacred precincts, the Toltecs continue to communicate the power of vision, organization, and creativity in shaping human history in the Americas. Along the arid northern coast of present-day Peru, stretching from the Moche Valley to the Lambayeque and La Libertad regions, a civilization arose that would dominate the region for centuries, the Chimú civilization. Flourishing between 900 and 1470 CE, the Chimú are renowned for their monumental urban planning, sophisticated irrigation systems, and skilled craftsmanship in metallurgy and textiles. Their capital, Chan, stands as a testament to their organizational prowess and cultural achievement, representing one of the largest pre-Columbian cities in South America. The geographic location of the Chimú is both a challenge and an opportunity. The northern Peruvian coast is characterized by arid deserts, fertile river valleys, and proximity to the Pacific Ocean. The Chimú mastered this environment by developing extensive irrigation networks, drawing water from rivers such as the Moche and Chicama to sustain agriculture. These systems allowed the cultivation of maize, beans, squash, peanuts, and cotton, providing food security for a dense urban population. The strategic location of the Chimú also facilitated trade along the coast and with inland highland regions, enabling access to exotic materials like spondylus shells, precious metals, and obsidian. At the heart of Chimú society was the sprawling city of Chan, which served as the political, administrative, and ceremonial center. Covering approximately 20 square kilometers, Chan was composed of walled compounds, each belonging to elite rulers or high-ranking officials. These compounds contained plazas, ceremonial halls, storage facilities, and residential quarters, arranged with remarkable urban precision. Walls were often adorned with intricate reliefs depicting fish, waves, and geometric patterns, reflecting the Chimú's connection to the sea and their mastery of artistic expression. The city's layout demonstrates advanced urban planning, with streets, drainage systems, and plazas designed to manage both daily life and ceremonial activities. Architecture and engineering were central to Chimú identity. Adobe brick construction was the primary technique, with massive walls and monumental gateways serving both practical and symbolic functions. Irrigation canals, reservoirs, and terraces ensured agricultural productivity, stabilizing the city's food supply and supporting its dense population. The integration of urban design and hydraulic engineering reflects a civilization that harmonized environmental adaptation with social and ceremonial requirements, creating a functional and visually impressive urban landscape. The economy of the Chimú civilization was diverse and sophisticated. Agriculture formed the backbone of production, supported by the extensive irrigation systems. Coastal resources provided abundant fish and seafood, which were staples of the diet and valuable trade commodities. The Chimú were also accomplished artisans, particularly in metalwork, producing objects from mold, silver, and copper, often alloyed to enhance durability and beauty. Ceramics and textiles were equally elaborate, featuring decorative motifs that signified social status and religious symbolism. Trade networks extended along the coast and into the highlands, connecting the Chimú with neighboring cultures and allowing the exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies. Religion and ceremonial life were deeply intertwined with both governance and daily life. The Chimú worshipped deities associated with the sea, agriculture, and fertility, reflecting their dependence on natural resources. Ceremonial centers within Chan hosted rituals, feasts, and offerings designed to maintain divine favor and reinforce elite authority. Religious symbolism is evident in art, architecture, and urban design, where motifs of waves, fish, and marine creatures appear frequently, emphasizing the centrality of the ocean in Chimú cosmology. Priests and rulers played pivotal roles in mediating between the spiritual and earthly realms, legitimizing political power through ritual observance. The Chimú civilization's cultural legacy is notable for its innovations in urbanism, hydraulic engineering, and metallurgy. Their capital, Chan, remains a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the largest adobe cities in the world, offering invaluable insight into pre-Columbian urban life. Artistic traditions, particularly in metalwork and ceramics, influenced later Andean societies, including the Inca, who eventually absorbed the Chimú after their conquest around 1470 CE. Despite the loss of political independence, Chimú knowledge, craftsmanship, and cultural practices continued to inform the broader Andean world, demonstrating the enduring impact of their civilization. By the time of Inca conquest, the Chimú had established a sophisticated model of centralized urban planning, irrigation management, and cultural expression, blending practical administration with spiritual symbolism. Their achievements illustrate the capacity of pre-Columbian societies to organize large populations, manipulate challenging environments, and produce enduring works of art and architecture. The integration of urban, agricultural, and religious systems created a cohesive civilization that left a lasting imprint on the northern Peruvian coast and the wider Andean region. Reflecting on the Chimú civilization, one is struck by their ingenuity, adaptability, and artistic vision. From the sprawling adobe walls of Chan Chan to the carefully engineered irrigation networks, the Chimú transformed a harsh desert landscape into a thriving, culturally rich society. Their mastery of metallurgy, ceramics, and textiles demonstrates technical skill and aesthetic sophistication, while their religious and urban planning practices reveal a civilization deeply connected to both the environment and the spiritual realm. The Chimú remind us that human innovation often flourishes in adversity, leaving legacies that endure long after political structures have fallen. Through their architecture, art, and environmental ingenuity, the Chimú civilization continues to offer a window into the complexity and creativity of pre-Columbian South America, illustrating how human societies can harmonize technological achievement, cultural expression, and spiritual life in a way that resonates across centuries. Rising in the heart of the Mexican highlands, the Aztec Empire, also known as the Triple Alliance, emerged as one of the most powerful and sophisticated civilizations in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica. Flourishing between 1345 and 1521 CE, the Aztecs built a sprawling empire characterized by monumental architecture, complex social organization, and a rich tapestry of cultural, religious, and economic achievements. Their capital, Tenochtitlan, became a marvel of urban planning and ingenuity, while their influence shaped the history of Central America for centuries. The geographic setting of the Aztec Empire centered on the Valley of Mexico, a high-altitude plateau dotted with lakes and fertile valleys. The Aztecs initially settled on an island in Lake Texcoco, where they founded Tenochtitlan in 1325 CE, gradually expanding to dominate surrounding city-states through alliances and military conquest. Their control eventually extended over vast regions of central and southern Mexico, encompassing diverse climates and ecological zones, from highland valleys to coastal plains. This geographic diversity allowed the Aztecs to access a wide range of resources, including agricultural produce, exotic feathers, precious metals, and marine products, which underpinned the wealth and stability of their empire. Urban centers, architecture, and art reflected the sophistication of Aztec society. Tenochtitlan, the empire's capital, was an extraordinary urban achievement featuring wide causeways, canals, and aqueducts that facilitated transportation and water supply. The city was meticulously organized, with ceremonial precincts, palaces, marketplaces, and residential areas arranged according to social hierarchy and cosmological principles. The Templo Mayor, the central pyramid dedicated to the gods Huitzilopochtli and Tlaloc, stood as the spiritual and political heart of the empire, adorned with intricate sculptures and reliefs. Aztec art extended beyond architecture, encompassing elaborate pottery, textiles, metalwork, and codices, which documented mythology, history, and ritual practices. The visual culture of the Aztecs was highly symbolic, conveying religious, political, and social messages that reinforced the cohesion of the empire. The economy and agriculture of the Aztec Empire were highly organized and diversified. The Aztecs developed chinampas, or floating gardens, in the shallow lakes surrounding Tenochtitlan, creating fertile plots capable of multiple annual harvests. Staples such as maize, beans, squash, and chili peppers formed the backbone of the diet, supplemented by fish, waterfowl, and domesticated animals. Trade networks extended across Mesoamerica, facilitating the exchange of cacao, obsidian, cotton, feathers, and precious stones. Markets were central to urban life, with Tlatelolco, a sister city to Tenochtitlan, hosting a vast marketplace where thousands of goods were traded daily. Tribute systems also played a crucial role, as conquered regions supplied food, labor, and luxury items to the empire, reinforcing Aztec dominance while sustaining the urban population and elite lifestyles. Religion was central to Aztec society, guiding daily life, political authority, and cultural expression. The Aztecs worshipped a pantheon of gods, with Huitzilopochtli, the sun and war deity, and Tlaloc, the rain god, occupying prominent roles. Rituals and ceremonies were elaborate, often involving offerings, dances, and human sacrifices, which were believed necessary to sustain the universe and ensure agricultural fertility. These practices were integrated with governance as rulers derived legitimacy from their capacity to maintain divine favor and lead religious ceremonies. The spiritual worldview of the Aztecs permeated art, architecture, and social customs, creating a cohesive society in which religion, politics, and culture were inseparable. The cultural achievements of the Aztecs extended beyond religious and artistic expression. They developed a sophisticated calendar system combining solar and ritual cycles, maintained detailed historical records through pictorial codices, and produced innovations in agriculture, architecture, and metallurgy. Education and craft specialization were organized through formal institutions, ensuring the transmission of knowledge and skills across generations. Military organization, combined with political alliances and strategic warfare, allowed the Aztecs to expand their influence rapidly, consolidating a multi-ethnic empire while fostering trade and cultural exchange across Mesoamerica. The Aztecs' influence on Mesoamerican history is profound. They absorbed and adapted traditions from earlier civilizations, such as the Toltecs, while leaving a legacy that shaped subsequent societies and European perceptions of the Americas. Their urban, economic, and religious innovations exemplify the capacity for human ingenuity and organization in pre-Columbian societies. Even after the Spanish conquest in 1521, Aztec culture, language, Nahuatl, and traditions continue to influence the region, persisting in art, cuisine, and folklore. Reflecting on the Aztec Empire, one sees a civilization that mastered its environment, organized complex social structures, and expressed profound religious and artistic vision. From the floating gardens of Tenochtitlan to the towering Templo Mayor, the Aztecs combined practical engineering, political authority, and spiritual devotion in a way that continues to fascinate and inspire. Their story reminds us that the Americas, long before European contact, were home to highly sophisticated civilizations, capable of shaping landscapes, societies, and culture on an unprecedented scale. Through their urban ingenuity, economic organization, religious devotion, and artistic achievements, the Aztecs remain a symbol of pre-Columbian creativity and power, bridging the achievements of earlier Mesoamerican cultures with the transformative history of the Americas during European colonization. Their legacy endures, offering insight into the dynamism, complexity, and resilience of human civilization in the New World. Stretching along the towering peaks and fertile valleys of the Andes, the Inca Empire emerged as the largest and most sophisticated civilization in pre-Columbian South America. Flourishing between 1200 and 1533 CE, the Inca demonstrated extraordinary skill in adapting to harsh and diverse environments, constructing monumental cities, developing intricate agricultural systems, and establishing a centralized administration that managed millions of people across thousands of kilometers. Their empire, known as Tawantinsuyu, meaning Land of the Four Quarters, exemplifies the apex of Andean civilization and remains a symbol of ingenuity, organization, and cultural achievement. The geographic extent of the Inca Empire stretched from modern-day southern Colombia to central Chile and from the Pacific coast to the high Andes. This vast territory encompassed diverse ecological zones, from coastal deserts and fertile river valleys to high-altitude plateaus and tropical rainforests. The Inca excelled at environmental adaptation, engineering terraced fields on steep slopes, constructing irrigation canals, and developing road networks that connected distant provinces. These innovations allowed them to sustain large urban populations, facilitate trade and communication, and maintain control over a region marked by extreme geographic diversity. Architecture and engineering feats were central to Inca identity. Cities such as Cusco, the imperial capital, and Machu Picchu, the iconic mountain citadel, showcase the Inca mastery of stone construction, urban planning, and hydraulic engineering. Stones were precisely cut and fitted without mortar, producing structures resistant to earthquakes and enduring centuries of natural wear. The Inca also built an extensive network of roads and suspension bridges, known as the Capac Nan, spanning thousands of kilometers to connect administrative centers, military outposts, and trade hubs. This infrastructure enabled rapid communication, troop movement, and integration of distant provinces into a cohesive empire, demonstrating the Inca ability to harmonize human activity with challenging landscapes. The economy and agriculture of the Inca Empire relied on sophisticated techniques that maximized productivity in diverse environments. Terracing, irrigation, and crop rotation supported the cultivation of maize, potatoes, quinoa, and other staples, while llamas and alpacas provided transport, wool, and meat. The Inca implemented a centralized system of state-controlled storage and redistribution, known as kolkhoz, which stored surplus crops to supply armies, officials, and populations during lean periods. Craft production, metallurgy, and textiles further enriched the economy, producing goods that reinforce social hierarchy, religious practices, and political authority. Trade and tribute were also integral, with conquered provinces contributing resources, labor, and military service to the central administration. Religion and social organization were deeply intertwined in Inca society. The Inca worshipped a pantheon of gods, with the sun god Inti occupying the central role, symbolizing life, power, and cosmic order. Religious ceremonies, offerings, and festivals reinforced the divine authority of the emperor, known as the Sapa Inca, who was considered the earthly descendant of Inti. Social hierarchy was highly structured, encompassing nobles, administrators, artisans, farmers, and laborers, with collective labor, mita, supporting public works, agriculture, and military campaigns. Cultural achievements included advanced astronomy, calendar systems, and quipu, a unique system of knotted cords used for record-keeping, accounting, and communication. Art, textiles, and metalwork reflected both religious symbolism and social status, serving as tangible expressions of Inca identity and power. The legacy and influence of the Inca Empire are profound. Despite the Spanish conquest in 1533, Inca innovations in architecture, agriculture, engineering, and administration continued to shape Andean societies. Their road networks, terraces, and irrigation systems remain in use today, while their cities, particularly Machu Picchu, stand as enduring symbols of human ingenuity. The Inca model of centralized governance, integration of diverse ecological zones, and coordination of large populations influence subsequent Andean cultures and provides insight into the complexity and sophistication of pre-Columbian civilization. Reflecting on the Inca Empire, one appreciates a civilization that mastered geography, technology, and social organization. They transformed steep mountains and arid valleys into productive landscapes, connected vast territories through engineered networks, and organized society in a way that harmonized political, religious, and economic functions. Their achievements exemplify human creativity and resilience, illustrating how societies can flourish in the most challenging environments through innovation, cooperation, and vision. The Inca story reminds us that the Americas were home not only to powerful city-states and empires, but also to a civilization capable of spanning continents, integrating diverse peoples, and leaving a legacy of ingenuity and beauty. From Cusco to Machu Picchu, from terraced fields to intricate textiles, the Inca Empire embodies the pinnacle of Andean civilization, connecting human ambition, environmental adaptation, and spiritual devotion in ways that continue to inspire admiration and study today. Across the turquoise waters of the Caribbean, among the islands of present-day Cuba, Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, and the Bahamas, the Taíno people established a vibrant and complex society. Flourishing between 1200 and 1500 CE, the Taíno were the principal inhabitants of the Greater Antilles, creating a culture defined by agricultural innovation, skilled craftsmanship, religious devotion, and social organization. Though often overshadowed in historical accounts by European conquest, the Taíno civilization represents a sophisticated and adaptive society whose legacy continues to resonate across the Caribbean. The geographic distribution of the Taíno encompassed the lush islands of the Greater Antilles and parts of the Lesser Antilles. Their settlements were typically located near fertile valleys, riverbanks, and coastal plains, providing access to arable land and abundant marine resources. Villages, known as yucayeques, were carefully organized, with clusters of circular or rectangular huts arranged around central plazas used for social and ceremonial activities. The Taíno demonstrated a keen understanding of their environment, balancing agriculture, fishing, and foraging to sustain dense populations while maintaining harmony with the natural world. The economy of the Taíno civilization was diverse and highly productive. Agriculture formed the backbone of subsistence, with crops such as cassava, maize, sweet potatoes, beans, peppers, and tobacco cultivated in rich soils. Cassava, processed into bread-like flatbreads, was a dietary staple. The Taíno also exploited coastal and inland waterways for fishing and shellfish gathering, employing nets, traps, and hooks to harvest fish, crabs, and other seafood. Additionally, they collected fruits, nuts, and medicinal plants from forests, demonstrating a deep knowledge of local ecosystems. Craft production was integral to the economy, with skilled artisans creating ceramics, woven baskets, and carved wooden objects, which served both practical and ceremonial purposes. Trade networks connected villages and islands, allowing the exchange of goods, ideas, and ceremonial items, reinforcing social cohesion and cultural identity. Religion and ceremonial life were central to Taíno culture. Their spiritual worldview was animistic, recognizing spirits, ancestors, and deities, known collectively as Zemis or Semis, often represented through carved figurines in wood, stone, or bone. These objects held profound ritual significance, mediating relationships between humans and the spiritual world. The Taíno performed ceremonies for fertility, agriculture, health, and social events, often accompanied by music, dance, and elaborate feasts. Shamans or spiritual leaders, known as bohique, guided these rituals using prayers, chants, and sacred objects to maintain harmony between the living, the gods, and the natural environment. The ceremonial plazas at the center of Ucayekques were spaces where social, political, and religious life intertwined, reflecting the integration of belief and governance. The social organization of the Taíno was hierarchical but community-oriented. Villages were led by caciques, hereditary chiefs who oversaw political decisions, resource distribution, and religious observances. Families lived in extended compounds, cooperating in agriculture, fishing, and craft production. Communal labor and reciprocity reinforced social cohesion, while ceremonial and ritual activities strengthened the moral and spiritual bonds that guided daily life. Gender roles were distinct yet complementary, with men primarily engaged in fishing, hunting, and warfare, while women managed agriculture, food preparation, and domestic crafts. The Taíno social system was both flexible and resilient, capable of sustaining large communities across scattered islands. The arrival of Europeans in the late 15th century dramatically altered Taíno society. Christopher Columbus's expedition in 1492 marked the beginning of contact, which initially involved trade, alliances, and curiosity, but soon escalated into conquest, enslavement, and the spread of diseases to which the Taíno had no immunity. Within decades, the population declined sharply, and much of the traditional social, political, and religious structures were disrupted or destroyed. Yet despite these cataclysms, Taíno influence endures. Many place names, words in Caribbean Spanish and English, agricultural practices, and cultural traditions trace back to the Taíno. Their art, oral traditions, and ceremonial concepts survive as echoes in Caribbean folklore and identity. Reflecting on the Taíno civilization, one sees a society that harmonized environment, economy, and spiritual life, thriving on islands that demanded ingenuity and resilience. Their mastery of agriculture and fishing, their artistry, and their complex social structures reveal a culture deeply attuned to its surroundings. Though European conquest decimated their population, the Taíno left a lasting imprint on the Caribbean, demonstrating the sophistication of indigenous civilizations prior to European contact. The story of the Taíno reminds us that the Caribbean was not merely a backdrop for exploration and conquest, but home to vibrant, resourceful, and culturally rich societies. From their Ucayekques and ceremonial plazas to their agricultural ingenuity and spiritual depth, the Taíno civilization exemplifies human adaptability and creativity. Their legacy endures in the languages, practices, and collective memory of the Caribbean, offering insight into a civilization that, though nearly lost, continues to inspire understanding of the richness of pre-Columbian life. Through their harmonious interaction with land and sea, their intricate social organization, and their spiritual devotion, the Taíno people provide a compelling chapter in the story of the Americas. Their civilization, once flourishing across islands of the Caribbean, reminds us of the diversity, resilience, and ingenuity of human societies long before European colonization, leaving a legacy that continues to resonate across time and space. Across the vast landscapes of the Americas, From the arid coasts of Peru to the highlands of Mexico, the deserts of the Southwest and the islands of the Caribbean, ancient civilizations arose, flourished, and left enduring marks on human history. The Norte Chico, Clovis, archaic cultures, Olmecs, Zapotecs, Maya, Chavín, Teotihuacan, Nazca, Moche, Mississippians, Wari, Toltecs, Chimú, Aztecs, Incas, and Taíno, each shaped their environments, crafted remarkable cities, and developed systems of governance, trade, and spirituality that reflect extraordinary human ingenuity. Despite their geographic and temporal diversity, these civilizations shared common threads: an intimate connection with their natural surroundings, sophisticated urban planning, artistic and technological innovation, complex social hierarchies, and deep spiritual traditions. Their achievements, from monumental pyramids and terraces to intricate art, metallurgy, and codices, demonstrate creativity, resilience, and foresight. Today, the echoes of these societies endure in archaeological sites, languages, cultural practices, and collective memory, offering a profound testament to the richness of pre-Columbian heritage. Understanding these civilizations allows us to appreciate not only their accomplishments, but also the continuity of human creativity and adaptation. The story of the Americas' ancient peoples reminds us that the New World was a cradle of innovation, culture, and civilization long before the arrival of Europeans, leaving a legacy that continues to inspire awe and reflection.